Hi, I'm Ron Zimmett. I'm a Florida trial lawyer and risk management consultant to Negley Associates. Welcome again to our continuing monthly series of risk management topics for community mental health centers. Today's topic is an employment law question. When is it okay to discriminate among your employees? I imagine most of you automatically think it's never okay to discriminate against your employees because it's against the law. However, discrimination is not itself against the law, and you probably do it all the time. Discriminating among your employees simply means that you treat one employee differently than another. Well, it's certainly okay to treat people differently based on how well they perform their jobs and whether they have unique talents and education for specific job positions. In states where there is employment at will, it's even not illegal to treat your employees differently based on the length of their hair. You could conceivably decide that you want people with short hair in one building and people with long hair in another. Of course, you're unlikely to do this, and it's not a good idea anyway. But the point is, it's not illegal simply to treat people differently. However, it is illegal to treat people differently for unlawful reasons. For example, you can't treat people differently based on their race, their gender, their age, or their religion. You can't treat people differently because they're pregnant or disabled. And you can't treat people differently because they filed a workers' compensation claim. Over the course of my career, I have met many people throughout the country who work for community mental health centers. And I'm convinced that you deal in good faith with your employees and that you would never want to treat them differently based on these kinds of illegal considerations. Why then do we continue to see lawsuits alleging that mental health center employees have been unlawfully discriminated against? I think the answer is that sometimes when you fire people, it comes as a surprise to them, and sometimes you discipline employees under circumstances that make it look like you're unlawfully discriminating when in fact you are not. When people don't see a termination coming based on poor job performance, they're more likely to think they were treated differently for some unlawful reason. Therefore, when you can, it's best to be sure that employees are fired only after appropriate warnings from their supervisors with opportunities to correct poor job performance. And of course, it's very important that you both thoroughly document the discussions and keep the documentation in a safe place where you can find it years later. I do know that sometimes an employee's conduct is so bad that an immediate termination is justified and important. For example, if a counselor is discovered having sexual relations with a patient, that's a real problem, and under those circumstances, it is certainly okay to fire right away. The other thing I see that makes people think they're being unlawfully discriminated against is disciplinary action that makes it look like something's wrong when there's not. For example, if you take no disciplinary action against 3 white males who've been consistently late to work, and then you decide that you got to make an example of somebody to make sure that all employees come to work on time, and then the next person you discipline is an African American male, why, it just gives the appearance of unlawful discrimination. I'm not saying you can't discipline African American males for being late, just that if you've not been disciplining white males for being late, and then you choose to discipline an African American male for the exact same conduct, it's going to create the wrong impression. Here's another example from a real case. An employee was fired 1 week after she'd been in the hospital for the second time. She'd been in the hospital before and filed a workers' compensation claim. The problem here is that the timing is not so good. It is against the law to fire people because they file workers' compensation claims. So if you discipline somebody soon after they get out of the hospital, it just doesn't create the right impression. Well, here's an idea to help make sure that you consistently discipline people for lawful reasons. Keep a discipline log to maintain a record of why you discipline people and what the discipline was. Thus, if you normally discipline people for being late by writing them up, rather than docking their pay, supervisors who are considering the type of discipline to impose for a person who's late can look at the log to make sure that their decisions are consistent and don't create the wrong impression. There's a lot more information available for you on risk management tips here on our website. We invite you to take a look at it. For now, however, thanks for listening. I'm Ron Zimmett on behalf of Negley Associates.